Welcome back to the American Superbike Show. I am your host, Ditch Turner, and it is time to kick off the 2026 MotoAmerica Superbike Championship. Woo! I'm excited. Before we get to that, I'm going to do the typical podcast thing and ask very nicely for you to please like or subscribe, however it is in the podcasting app of your choice, and leave a 5-star review. All those things will help to continue to make the show be easier to find for other people like yourself that love MotoAmerica. And tell a friend. Also, before we get looking forward to this weekend's action in the North Georgia Hills, we got a couple of items of news of the week. And the first one is you could volunteer at the track. MotoAmerica is still specifically looking for volunteers to be course marshals, grid marshals, tire control marshals, and hospitality volunteers. And there is no experience necessary. All the training will be provided for you. If you want to sign up, the best thing to do would be to email the Chief Marshal David Howley or the Deputy Chief Marshal Lee Holloman and see about attending one of the two meetings that they have. They're going to be April 22nd and 23rd at 7 p.m. Pacific time. You can email these gentlemen. The Chief Marshal David Hawley, I'm just going to spell his email out. It's DHAWLEY at motoamerica.com. And Lee Holloman, the Deputy Chief Marshal, is LHOLLIMON at motoamerica.com. Even if you can't make one of those two meetings, you can still sign up. Just send an email to David or Lee. They would love to have you. Also going on in the news is MotoAmerica's VIP Superfan Privateer Support Program is apparently a thing, which is cool. I'm excited about this. It was created by Ron Heben. He's the guy who runs the VIP Superfan experience, and they sold hats over the Daytona weekend to generate funds, and then they selected a rider at random, and the first recipient of these privateer funds was Eli Block, and he received a check for $2,525. And so this is awesome. I'm glad this, and there isn't a commitment to continue funding riders in the future through this manner. I'm kind of curious to see how the future selections will be made. There wasn't really a lot given on that process, whether it was like the fans who bought the hats that just voted, or if it was just a series thing. So I'm kind of curious how that came together, but we shall see. Next item in the news of the week is that all 2026 MotoAmerica Superbike races will air live on Vice TV. I had never heard of this channel before, to be honest with you. So I have YouTube TV, and I went and first thing I did is I went to YouTube TV to see if it was offered on there, and it is not. So unfortunately, I don't get this channel, but at least not as part of the basic package. But I went to their website, and a quick look showed that it is available on Hulu's Live Plus, Dish Network, and Xfinity cable networks, and there was a lot more listed there too. That was just some of the ones that caught my eye that I recognized the services. So if you have any of those services where you get your TV channels, then you can also get Superbike races for free and live. But only Superbike races, though. All the other classes will remain available on Samsung TV Plus and MotoAmerica's Live Plus. And one more item of news of the week, Ben Glady is returning to rodeo racing. He's going to run the remaining Super Hooligan rounds, and he's going to do so on a Ducati Street Fighter V2. Ben Glady and rodeo racing, they have a little bit of a history together. I believe it was 2023 that Glady was supposed to ride for rodeo racing in the Twins Cup on an Aprilia RS660 as Gus Rodeo's teammate. And he had a nasty crash at Daytona to start the year and ended up, he's just now coming back to something close to full time after that. It's been a bit of a journey for him from what I understand. But so I'm glad to see that he's back. This is going to be a part of an expanded partnership for the team for rodeo racing with Luckstar VIP, which I didn't. I got to admit, I didn't really know much about them, but they seem to be a pretty cool Moto VIP. They do concierge events promotions and rider and sponsor management. So they, involved in motorcycle racing, and I'm glad to see that they are expanding their effort with rodeo racing, because that's a team that, they're punching above their weight. They've... you got two Super Hooligan races at Daytona where Gus Rodeo finished 5th place in both races. And then in the Daytona 200 itself, he got a top 10 result. That's a pretty solid weekend from a small privateer team. And so with this, hopefully with more sponsorship on board, you can continue to see that carry out throughout the rest of the year, especially now with an expanded effort. It's, good news all around. So let's get into our Road Atlanta preview. I'm super excited to make my first visit to Road Atlanta. I am actually packing up this afternoon, and I will be leaving first thing in the morning to make my way up to North Georgia. Well, I'm recording on Wednesday right now. Let me know if you're going to be there too. I'd love to say hi. And for those of you that can't make it, I hope you enjoy the fantastic weekend of racing on TV. I mean, this may sound kind of dumb, but I'm almost as excited to get home and watch the replays as I am to be at the track in person this weekend. Because Road Atlanta is a track that not only translates well into some great action, on the racetrack itself, but it's also just a track that broadcasts well, regardless of the kind of racing that's going on. And it's just because the number of the camera spots and their locations, and they have just this ability to catch so much of the track from really good angles. It just makes this place a blast to watch on TV. Scott Russell is going to be the Grand Marshal for the race. And, I don't know, do we always have a Grand Marshal for every race? It's not something I recall being at every round before, but I mean, maybe that's something that they're going to do this year just because of, celebrating the 50th anniversary of the birth of Superbikes. Let's see here. Every class is going to be at Road Atlanta except for Super Hooligans. Superbikes as well as BTR are going to be going into the race one of their 2026 championship calendar and getting ready to, get things kicked off and underway. Whereas it's going to be round two for the Talent Cup, Twins, Baggers, and Supersport. This is going to be the first traditional weekend format of the year, not just in the classes that are there with Superbike being the headliner and everything else supporting it, but also in just the weekend schedule itself with Friday practice and then, qualifying Saturday morning and then race one on Saturday and races two on Sunday for everybody. So it's going to be nice to get back to that familiar routine after, a little bit of just, Daytona's a little different, and then only having the Talent Cup at MotoGP weekend is also, it's nice to get back into our regular weekends. And so looking at the classes that are going to be there at Road Atlanta, BTR, the Royal Enfield Build Train Race. This is the first time they're going to begin their season at Road Atlanta since, at least from my research, since 2023. The last 2 years they've began their season at Barber. Now, with this class, and with a lot of other junior classes, but like with this class especially as well, since a lot of these riders come in without a whole lot of experience, you tend to see a big jump from year one to year two. And typically those riders that are in their second year of the program have a little bit of a leg up and tend to be the front group that when it comes time for the race days. Well, this year, our returning riders, we have 4 of them for the program, and that is Brianna Everett, and we have Brianna Cutler, and then Taddy Pays, and Karina Samoas. Now, with the returning riders typically having a little bit of a leg up, we could be in for, the year of the Briannas, because I especially have probably higher expectations for Brianna Everett than I do than the other returners, just because she definitely started to come on towards the end of last year. And I think she finished off the season at VIR getting a 5th place and a 4th place and managed to finish in the season championship, order ahead of some other riders that were already in their second year last year. So I'm looking for, good things for her for 2026 and also Brianna Cutler. But when it comes to the newcomers, though, I know absolutely nothing. I have a list of their names, and that's about it. I don't know anything about their backgrounds, any sort of experience they've had before this. And with this being the first time that BTR is opening their season at Road Atlanta since 2023, even the people returning, Brianna Everett, Brianna Cutler, Taddy Pays, and Karina Samoas, they don't really have the advantage of, going to the track for the second time like they would at other places. So it's going to be interesting to see how things shake out in their first round, because I honestly just have no idea. Moving on, we're going to go to Talent Cup. Talent Cup, this is round 2 for them, and their points coming in this weekend. You got a tie at first place for Kinsey Matsudaira and Nathan Gauker, each having 45 points. And behind them, there's another tie for third place with Sam Drain and Jake Page, each having 29 points. And fifth place all alone is Rossi Garcia with 22 points. But this is still really early in the championship, so it can change drastically this weekend. Although I guess that kind of goes for all the all of the classes that are going into their second weekend of the year already. But Talent Cup has not raced at Road Atlanta before because the series has only been around for 1 year, and last year they opened at Barber. So this is going to be the first time that these Kramer bikes are going to be at the track, and it's so hard to pick before going into the weekend in this class as well. I think Sam Drain is going to get on top of the box for at least one race this weekend. I think he's going to pull in a win. But as far as like the other race, man, this is another one where I have no idea. And we can, continue that theme going into the next class as well with Twins Cup. This is also round 2 for Twins Cup, and their points coming in. You got Sam Drain on top with 45, Hank Vosberg in second place with 41, Bodie Page is in third with 29, Matthew Chapin in fourth place with 28, and then tied for fifth place, you got Michelle Agazi with 20, and also Kevin Almedo. Now, Agazi is not going to be there this weekend. He has gone back to Italy because he is their national championship, and he just got the one-time ride at Daytona. Twins Cup also did not race at Road Atlanta in 2025. I think Matthew Chapin is the only one of those top 5 in the points that has raced at Road Atlanta before, and that might be something that gives him an advantage. I mean, I'm kind of grasping at straws there, but it's something. It's definitely not nothing, especially when you're looking at who's going to win, because once again, with the third class in a row, it's so close between the kids at the front. It's just so hard to say for sure. In this one, I'm going to pick Chapin to win a race, but no matter what, I think we're going to have 2 different race winners over the weekend, and that's about as far as out on the limb that I'm willing to go with this. Mission King of the Baggers. This is going to be round 2 for them as well. Their points coming into this race is Troy Herfoss is sitting alone up top with 45 points. There's a tie for second place between Hayden Gillum and Kyle Wyman, and they each have 32 points. In fourth place is Bradley Smith with 26, and fifth place is James Rispoli with 22. Last year, when the Baggers were here, Loris Baz got his first King of the Baggers victory in a rainy race 1. While Kyle Wyman, he got the win in race 2 for Harley Davidson. Now, this year in 2026, with Indians winning the first 2 races of the 2026 King of the Bagger season, I think it's time for that Harley's going to strike back this weekend. I think Kyle Wyman and Bradley Smith are going to split race wins because Kyle Wyman is just too good to not pick for to win at least one race a weekend. And Bradley Smith, I think it's time. He's ready to get that first victory here in the King of the Bagger series. Moving on to Supersport, it's going to be round 2 for them as well, and their points coming in. Josh Heron sitting alone up top with 25. Tyler Scott's in second with 20. Kayla Yakov has 16 points in third place. Darren Bender's in fourth with 13, and Alessandro DeMario is in fifth place with 11. And you'll probably notice that was just single race points because that's all you get for racing the one race of the weekend of the Daytona 200 in the previous round. Last year in this class, though, at Road Atlanta, PJ Jacobson won in race 1, and it was won on they ran it on a wet but drying track after a delay. And then Matthew Skoltz came back the next day and won race 2. And neither one of those guys are back, in this class for this year. And as much as I'm, when we originally got that news, it was just like, oh man, we get to see the kids fight it out alone at the front now. This is going to be awesome. Well, now Josh Heron's back again. And he kicked off his 2026 with a bang by winning his 4th Daytona 200 in a row, his 5th overall. And I think he also runs pretty damn good at Road Atlanta. And I think he's going to just sweep the weekend. I think Josh Heron's I think, I know he wants to be in Superbike, but to go from the lows of not having a ride to coming straight back into Supersport and getting a 5th Daytona 200 crown and just the momentum of riding that into the year, I think he's just going to be a force to reckon with at every track. And that's why I picked him to win the championship this year. He's just that good. And I'll be happy when he's back in Superbike next year because that's where he really belongs. So speaking of Superbike, it's going to be the first race of the year for them. Looking at the entry there are just a couple of number changes. Ashton Yates has changed his number. He's going to be running 46 this year, and Brandon Posh is going to be number 66 for the Team Hammer M4 X Star Suzuki team. There are 25 entries overall for Superbike, and 14 of them are entered as actual Superbikes, and 11 of them are Superbike Cup, which is, stock 1000 machines. Let's see here. Last year, Cambobier won both races. I think he's probably going to win both races again this year. But, like last year, that definitely doesn't mean he's just going to walk away with the 2026 title. He swept the weekend last year, but he still had to fight for it at the end. Bobby Fong is the only other rider returning this year that got a Superbike podium at Atlanta last year. He managed to finish in second place for race 2. The other podium finishers of the weekend was Jake Gagne was P2 in race 1, and Josh Herron was P3 in both races, and he is now off to Supersport this year. So that is just a brief overview of all the classes that are going to be running this weekend. Now let's get into how to watch. All the times are going to be local, which in this case is going to be Eastern time. For MotoAmerica's Live Plus on Friday, the preview show is going to kick off at noon, and it's going to be followed by the Raceline betting show that's going to start at 1 o'clock. Supersport Qualifying 1 will follow at 1:20, with Twins Cup Qualifying 1 at 2, BTR Qualifying 1 at 2:40, Superbike Time Practice is what it's listed at. That is at a 3:10. And then Baggers Q1 at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And then the late show is going to be the Talent Cup. Their Q1 is going to be at 4:40 in the afternoon is when it's kicked off. Now, notice I said Superbike Timed Practice. I don't remember seeing any sort of news or any written anywhere, but a lot of classes are going to just one qualifying session. So, we typically would have a Q1 on Friday afternoon, and then Q2 would be Saturday morning, and that would be the final qualifying session. And then just like the best time between the two. Well, for like Superbike this weekend, they have just a practice Friday afternoon. And then on Saturday, they have just one qualifying session that's only 15 minutes long. And if you remember from Daytona, Twins Cup only had one qualifying session, and that was, where unfortunately Andrew Y wasn't able to make it out there because he had a motor that blew, and so he had to start at the back for all the races, for both the races of the weekend, just because there was the only one qualifying session and he had to miss it. Okay, so I just went and paused for a second and went and looked, and it looks like the only two series on the weekend that will have two qualifying sessions is Supersport and Mission King of the Baggers. But everyone else will only have one qualifying session. I don't know, just something that I find interesting. All right, so we went through Friday. Now we go on to Saturday. Saturday, MotoAmerica Live Plus is going to kick off their coverage at 8:50 a.m. with Superbike Free Practice 2, followed by Talent Cup Qualifying 2. Oh, I guess Talent Cup also has two qualifying sessions. Missed that one. Talent Cup Q2 at 9:20 with Supersport Q2 at 9:45, King of the Baggers Q2 at 10:25, and then a little bit of a change from past weekends. We're going to go, they always roll straight into the King of the Baggers Qualifying 2 into the Challenge. So the Q2 is going to be at 10:25, and then the Mission King of the Baggers Challenge is going to kick off scheduled for 10:55, and then after that we're still going to have the Superbike qualifying, which is just going to be a 15-minute session that's started at 11:10. And then after that, we will still have yet another thing. BTR is going to have their first race of the weekend at 11:40 a.m. on Saturday, and then we'll go into the lunch break. Now, usually they'll have all that stuff wrapped up and then go King of the Baggers Q2, then Challenge, and then lunch break. This time we're going to do that, but, I have a couple more things. So the Superbike qualifying session and BTR race 1. After the lunch break at 1:10 in the afternoon, Supersport's going to come out and do race 1, and then followed by Talent Cup race 1 at 2:05, Superbike race 1 at 3:12 in the afternoon, King of the Baggers race 1 at 4:05, and Twins Cup is going to wrap up the action of the day with race 1 at 4:45 in the afternoon. Sunday, Live Plus is going to kick off their coverage with Superbike warm-up at 9:20. And then King of the Baggers at 9:45. Talent Cup Race 2 will kick off the afternoon racing coverage at 12:35. And then Supersport Race 2 will be at 1:15. BTR Race 2 at 2:05. Superbike Race 2 at 3:12 in the afternoon. King of the Baggers Race 2 at 4:05. And Twins Cup will wrap up the weekend with Race 2 at 4:45 p.m. Now, if you are going to be watching on Samsung TV Plus, the schedule for there is just going to be, it's going to start on Saturday, and at 12:30 in the afternoon, Build Train Race 1 will air, previously recorded. So it's going to be taped late at 12:30. And then at 1 o'clock, Supersport Race 1 will air live on the Samsung TV Plus, followed by the Talent Cup Race live at 2, the preview show at 2:30. And then Superbike Race 1, the coverage is going to start at 3 o'clock with King of the Baggers at 4 and Twins Cup at 4:40. So not a whole lot of change from the actual schedule. And same with Sunday, because they're going to kick off the schedule of the Samsung TV Plus at 12:30 with Talent Cup at Race 2. And then at 1 o'clock, it's going to be Supersport Race 2. 2 o'clock is going to be Build Train Race 2. And then at 2:30, once again, they will have another preview show for the Superbike race. And then the actual coverage will kick off at 3 o'clock for Superbike Race 2, with 4 o'clock King of the Baggers, and 4:40 for Twins Cup Race 2. So that's Samsung TV Plus. With Vice TV, they have, with the race time being 3:12 p.m. both days, it's a pretty safe bet that Vice TV broadcast is going to start at 3 p.m. And looking it up now on my phone, because I know y'all love listening to me look up stuff. Yep, I'm right. It's going to start at 3 p.m. both days. And one thing about all these schedules for the TV services, they are subject to change. For the most part, the weather looks really good for the weekend. Like, there's going to be a lot of cloud cover. It's going to help keep the temperatures down from being too hot. But, it also should remain mostly dry, except for Sunday. As I'm sitting right now looking at Sunday, there's currently a 20 to 30% chance of rain, and it's mainly between 9 a.m. and 2 p.m. So it's not it's... Hopefully, if we do get any sort of interruptions caused by the weather, it will be short, quick, but, it is something to keep in mind. And so that is the weekend ahead. I can't wait to get to the track, see the Superbikes in person for the first time this season. They are just bikes that, when you're there trackside, you feel them go by as much as you hear them, and it's just a pure visceral thrill. And next week, we'll go over all the things that happened on the track, and maybe even a couple of things that I can find in the garages. But until then, let's just take care of each other.